Hello and welcome back to Stranded Deep, welcome back to Pacific Paradise, and welcome back to this island we're making. We're currently in the map creator on the PC version of the game, so the controls are W to go forward, S to go back, A to go left, D to go right, Q to go down, E to go up, right click and hold that mouse button to pan the camera around. The terrain brushes are going to catch you out. Save often, save regularly, because if you are going around smoothing the outside of your island, because the beaches are gently shelving around the outside and you have the amount slider cranked all the way up, when you click on any of the other tools, that amount slider will still be cranked up because it is inherited. So you hit lower, you left click and you punch a hole straight through to Cthulhu's bedroom. You'll be sad and have to reload at that point because it's very difficult to fix a hole like that, so always make sure the amount slider is cranked down before changing a tool. In fact, just do it as a matter of course. Anyway, now that we've got that out of the way, we have a pine forest. We also have an aeroplane that has crashed into it. It didn't have a chance to hit the ground because the trees are now holding it up. We also have one of the pine trees resting against the trailing edge of the wing, so if a player comes to the island, they can just jump up on and around the aeroplane, which is lovely. The forest needs a lot more work. There's a lot of things that need to go onto the forest floor, small pines, debris and things like that, but last time we were working on this. It's a little vignette. So we added some rocks to the beach, we added some dirt, we added some trees, and we added some foliage, and there was a pathway so a player can just go straight through the middle of it. There's also some yucca, because if a player comes around the island and they say, "Oh, I've explored everything, don't need to ever go there again," well, if you put some renewable resources like the yucca, then people will have to go back because that's one of the building materials. And it means players will go around and carry on going to these little vignettes that you've created. Speaking of vignettes, we have this, which is a pond. It's a pool underneath the tailplane, so somebody can jump off the tailplane into the water, which is good, and it should hold them without breaking their legs. But we need to work on story. We need to give this place a feel. So what I think we can do is we have these structures, and if we scroll all the way down, we have things like the shelters. It might be that the crew survived the crash, and it would be quite nice to have a shelter brought out, and just to show that some of them did live for a little longer. Of course, the shelters are full of skeletons, so their story is perhaps not a happy one. But just pulling it out of the toolbox is not our style. Just popping it down on an empty beach, no, that's not us. What we're going to do is we're going to go here, we're going to grab some rocks. We're going to grab, say, big rock. Oh, no. Cliff piece. We have some cliff pieces. Let's see, we got cliff 3, cliff 4, cliff 5. Cliff 6 is the big one. We're not going to bring that out. What do we got? Cliff 1 is too big, I think. And Cliff 2 is just C stack. Okay. Cliff 3? How are you doing? I'm going to bring you out here, perhaps. Because what we need to do is break line of sight from one side of the island to the other. So we need to make sure a player standing on one beach can't really see the other beach. They can see glimpses of it, but they need to move from one side of the island to the other. Otherwise, it's just a big empty terrain. So, R to rotate, T to transform, R, we're going to pan this thing around, T, we're going to move it around. I'm going to drop it way down into the dirt. Okay. Now I want to keep paths on the island so that players can move freely from one side to the other. So we're not going to put up a big wall of cliffs. I don't really like that idea. This feels nice. Okay, good. So the big flat section of Cliff 3 is facing the beach. It means that if somebody's running along here, they can jump up and over the top, should they want to. We're going to go to terrain, and we are going to hit the raise option, which is a checkbox. We're going to change the size down. We're going to use the hard brush, and we're going to change the amount slider just a couple of pixels from the stop. And then we're going to experiment by left clicking. It didn't move that much, which is nice. It means we have the right setting. We're going to left click and hold. Probably crank that up a little bit. A couple more pixels. That's better. Nice. So what we're going to do is just put a gradient in here touching the top of this rock. We don't want it to clip into the rock, so we're not just painting the terrain underneath the rock, only touching the edge. The reason for that is that the ground has sprites, things like grass growing on it, and if you put it underneath the rock, you'll see the grass growing through the rock itself. And that's not necessarily something that we want. But wait, you've gone too high and too spiky. Too quickly. Yeah, that's going to be fine. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. We're going to sort that out in just a second. So, we'll go to smooth height, change the amount slider up, nice soft brush, and change the size of the brush up as well. And then just a little single left click just to make sure it's not too harsh brush, and then just left click and hold and paint everything back. Everything that we've just put in. Smooth it down. And that's nice. It should just touch the top of that rock. We can fill that in with plants and things just to blend the edges. I'm going to crank that amount slider a lot higher. There we go. Now with the release of the game, there is something of a problem. As we saw as we were flying across the beach, there's a lot of jagged edges on the terrain. And you're really going to have to ride that smooth brush, but sometimes you'll left click and hold and it really doesn't seem to be doing much. Well, crank it all the way up. And if you need to, change the size of the brush to make it a bigger brush. Going around and smoothing that terrain is going to help in the long term. So it's worth just spending maybe an entire session coming in here, smoothing everything off, and just making sure the beaches are nice and smooth and flat, just like sand is in real life. Anyway, back to the rock. So we now have piled up a bunch of dirt, but what I really want to do is have that just touching the top. So we'll go back to raise and lower, change the amount slider all the way down because that's going to catch us out. Go back to the hard brush, change the size down, and I just want to bring it up to a point. There. And just smooth it back. And then just check from the side just to see how high it is. And then select the center brush, the set height brush. Read terrain paint height. And I'm going to read it from the top of this peak. There we go. So now nothing can go higher than that peak. So I can push left mouse button and it will never go higher than that peak. Oh, yep. Nice little tip there. Go back to smooth. Go back to the soft brush. And then just left click and push everything back down to get a better join between the rock and the terrain. Good. Excellent. The speed of the camera is not something you can control. That's just something that's going to happen, so you just have to roll with it, really. Good. Good. There is no grass here, and I do kind of want grass here, so I'm going to read terrain paint height, select here. One of the things you're going to need to do is really just come back into put the map in the game and just check it with your own eyes, just see what's going on. Because sometimes it looks a little bit patchy. It's like, there's not really going to be much grass here, but then you go into the game and everything looks very different. This rock ahead of us that keeps changing, that means the LOD, the level of detail, in the map editor isn't as high as it could be in the actual game itself. It won't do that in the game itself. You'll have a greater draw distance before it goes to a low poly model. Anyway, we are going to change the amount slide down, and it wasn't high that high to begin with. Hit smooth height, crank that up, and then crank the size up again. Crank the size and the amount up. Okay, and just kind of equalize. What I'm going to not do is brush over the pond, because that'll reduce the size of the pond. Okay. And we're going to change the amount slider down. We are going to, well, we're just going to raise and lower a little bit. So, down a little further. So punch it down here. And then raise it here. Just to make sure the terrain isn't just flat. I don't want a big flat area. Okay, good. Excellent. So, what we could probably also do is grab another object. Maybe grab some rocks. Big rock. It's a good thing to use a big rock. I'm going to basically just do the same thing as we've done on the other side of the island. R to rotate. T to transform. Just bring it up and round. Big rock 3. Yep. R. T. And just do the same thing we've done before. There's a bit of a sharp edge on that, so we'll just rotate it round, in, and down. Now we're going to just move the camera around to work out what down actually is. That's fine. And T to transform. Because we're working in a 3D space. Good. Excellent. So, now we have that. Hit terrain and objects so that you don't have anything selected. And then there's a bit of an awkward section here, so I'm going to throw a rock in there. Big rock. Yeah. R to rotate. T to transform. We're actually grabbing the red toggle there. Green toggle is going to push it down into the ground. Just depending on rotation, really. There we go. We got some different texture there. So we got rock and then a bit of raised terrain. Good. Excellent. So you can run through here, and you can run out, and it's you're not blocked by anything. Big rock 1. That's a big old rock. That's not so big. I don't really want the egress from the lake blocked. So we'll make it slightly smaller by just pivoting it around on its axis. So it needs to be out of the ground enough to be above the sprites, the grass sprites, but it does need to be in the ground so that we're not just we're not having a huge old rock there. Reducing some of the size by jamming it in the ground is a valid thing that you can do. Good. Terrain objects. And what we're going to do is raise this up a little bit and just add a little bowl here. So terrain. We're going to hit... we're going to keep with the soft brush. Hit raise. Size up. And have a little path through here. So there's a little path. I'm going to raise it up and just have a little bowl. There we go. Nice. And we're going to put a little house here. Let's bring it down onto the beach. Okay, good. Soft that brush. Smooth height. So we're going to soften everything back. Going to crank the amount up and really, in fact, all the way up. And just paint on the areas that we can't really see. That's good. Soften that area there. Good, excellent. And maybe lower things down here. Amount slider down, lower. Change the amount up and just really just push this back a little bit. And then raise around the outside. Good. Just want a little bowl. Smooth? Yes, please. Crank it up. Crank the side. Well, no, just slightly smaller size. And just brush things around. Excellent. Okay, so we have a slightly different terrain now. You can still run through here if you wanted to. It's not actually that high, but we do need to go to the objects, close the rocks tab, bring up structures, and see if we can find a shelter to go in this area. Now, the boat is fine, but these people got off of an aeroplane, so let's have something that's a little bit more natural, maybe? Can we have a smaller shelter? One without a boat. Shelter 4? That's fine. Ah, look at this. This one actually has rocks attached to it. So we can just drop it into the terrain. Good. Excellent. And as you pull it out of the toolbox, when you initially pull something out of the toolbox, it will follow the terrain. So you'll see it jinking and just kind of moving around, following anything that you've placed down. But as soon as you let go, it maintains its attitude. So then you have to move it yourself. Either transform or rotate it. Or you can just delete it, if you want. So, were these people happy survivors? Were they all stuck together? Maybe. Let's see what else we've got. Another boat. Ooh, more of a yurt style. Canvas. We've already looked at that one. That's the same one. So shelter 3, shelter 2 is quite good. Very big though. So we can always add another shelter. I think either shelter 7. Shelter 7 seems fine. There's probably going to be treasure around these things. So just keep in mind there'll be little boxes or tools or something. I think what we'll do though is we'll leave that for the time being and just start putting in trees and plants. So trees. Unfortunately, we have used all of our pine trees, so we cannot put any more pine trees in, but that's not a problem because we have the ficus. The ficus is going to be something that is essentially a structural element. So ficus tree 1 and 2 are the ones that cannot be destroyed. So once you put it in, that's it. That's your lot. But that's a very tall tree. It is. How tall is it? Oh, that is an excellent question. Okay, we're going to go to structures. We're going to go to door. That's the height of the player, Mr. Door. And as long as we don't let go, we can just move the door around just to see how tall our player is going to be compared to anything else. So I'll put that back, bring this down a lot, just put the trunk right into the dirt. And I kind of want a little grove here. The trouble with putting this into the ground is that the point that you grab is going to be quite far down beneath the terrain. So as soon as we let go, it's going to be very hard to move the tree around. So we need to kind of get it right first time before putting extra items in the area, because otherwise what will happen is your toggles will jump onto other items and there's no item list, which is something of a missed opportunity, I feel. So we'll bring the door out. You can still run under that branch, which is nice. Good. So terrain objects, that tree is now there. We're going to grab another. And the ficus trees are great just because of their design. You have that one branch that just goes out across everything. So I'll drop another one in. If you have a bunch of trees that look the same, just make sure their rotation is different. Rotation and angle mean a lot. So if you bring something out of a toolbox, just make sure that even though they all look the same, if you change the rotation and the angle, then people aren't really going to notice. And this one we can put down right up until that split in the trunk. So it kind of looks like maybe 2 trees. I'm going to put it close to the rock. A player can't run through a tree. So if you put it close to the rock, it just means that it's an area they can't run through, and you're not restricting those pathways. Good. So we have a happy little shelter. Or what would have been a happy little shelter? I think we need another something here. So what we can do is go back to rocks. I don't want anything too big. We can just bring things out until we find something that fits. You fit. Yes, you do. Okay, just drop it into the ground. Doesn't need to be much. Rotate. To rotate. There we go. Because I don't want to stop anyone running through here. And I don't want to make the pathway too small either. So there needs to be a path through here, and a path through here. And maybe a path through here. So we're not stopping anyone going anywhere, but that looks fine. So, terrain objects, just to let go of that. And then we are going to go back to our trees. We're definitely going to add another ficus tree. So ficus tree 2, bring you in. And then drop it down into the ground. Rule of 3 means that even though there are straight lines, it doesn't really look like those straight lines. So drop you into the ground. You are technically the same orientation as the other tree, but not enough that anyone's going to notice. And the way the branches are, I think they're fine. R to rotate. And we can just rotate it around and see if there's a better way of doing this, a better way of this appearing. I think that's probably slightly better with the branch coming out over the sand. What we can do is turn this into a world tree if we wanted to, so C to clone. Slightly tricky, because what we don't want to do is let go and then it drop onto another object, so we have to be very careful. So far we've been lucky. It's just snapped onto another object, which is probably the initial tree that we've put in. So that's fine. That's nice. Okay, now ficus tree 1 is slightly different terrain objects. And we can put you in here as an extra section of that world tree. R to rotate. Let's rotate it around. And then T to transform and just bring it right into the ground. Just make it snug up against the rock. How far in can we bring this? Fairly far in. We're in a nice little grove here. So I'm just going to check that with the door. Make sure door can still get through. Door can still get through. It's a clear path. Okay, that's fine. Do we technically need this world tree here? Or could we split it? Well, technically we could split it. That's the rock. Ooh, getting hold of the tree is going to be difficult. I think I will split it. There we go. So if you move things aside, you can click through the island mesh. That feels better. Just want to check where these branches are by rotating things around. I don't really want the branches clipping through each other. Yeah, that just makes it a little bit more airy. Just makes things a little lighter. Terrain and objects. Yeah, that feels much better. Okay, cool. So we have a nice little grotto. Grotto? Just a little arboretum, really. Little survivor camp, which the player can go into. A little skull in there. Happy little skull. Structures. We probably could add another shelter in there. So, a little shelter here. Just make it snugly all the way up to here. Yeah. Can do. It is going to block the player somewhat, but if we pull it back so it's facing this, what could have been cooking fire. Yeah, okay. Terrain objects. This one had a rock behind it, so we probably should put a rock behind this one as well. Rocks. Big rock 5. Yep. And then just drop it down into the ground. Bring it out slightly. So it looks like the survivors found some rocks just to block the wind. Okay. Move this tree slightly. Ah, nice. So we still have the effect of the cooling effect of the leaves and the branches, and we have a nice little survivor camp. For anyone who crashed in the DC-3 and didn't quite make it off the island. Okay, excellent, good. What we can do is grab some smaller rocks. We have small rock down here. And just move them around the bottom. R to rotate. T to transform. And we have a nice little bench for somebody who would have been watching the fire. What we can also do is put in another small rock. Pop it down onto the beach. Excellent. And then close the rocks tab. Go to trees. It has some plants. I think a nice little nana plant. Just on the entrance to the camp. R to rotate. Make sure none of the leaves are clipping through. So I'll do this. And already we have the effect of the shadows from the leaves on everything below. Just going to make sure you are in fact in the ground. There you are. Good. Nice nana plant. Nana plants are good. Nice structural plant. There's a clip through there. R to rotate. Just make sure the leaves aren't too badly clipping through anything. Excellent. Now, there needs to be a reason for people to come here. So, terrain objects. Get rid of the selection. Find the yucca tree. And we're going to pop a yucca tree actually in this area. So I'm going to pop it here. That means anyone coming here is going to pretty much see our little camp here. It is a resource. We could always add 2 yucca trees. I mean, the thing about this area is that the yucca trees, they provide fibrous leaves. It's not really cheating to give people too many fibrous leaves. More fibrous leaves than they need. Good, excellent. So we have a nice pathway through the actual camp itself, because that's very important. We have the camp, which is going to have some temporary treasure, some things for people to find, crates and the like. Maybe tools. And we have the yucca, which is going to have people coming through here a little more often than they would otherwise do. And then we have these pine saplings, but we don't want to put them in. PP is probably a good idea. So I'll drop that at the bottom of the glade, glen, grotto. Potato plant, quawa. Well, we can add these. The trouble is that the fruit doesn't really spawn. I mean, it does, it just goes rotten on the vine. So I'll just drop that in there. A puddle of light. I'll add the potato plant as well. Just around the outside. So we have some resource plants in there as well. We could add some palm saplings. Just bring that down. And just do a little rotate, because the palm saplings, you can't change the attitude, you can only change the rotation. Attitude being left and right rotation. On the Y plane? Oh, Y and X plane. So we'll just do the same thing, just rotate there. Good. Good. Excellent. So, I think what we'll do, instead of just putting too much stuff there, is probably leave that as is. We haven't done anything with this yet. We're going to add some trees and things here as well. Maybe just take off some of the angle from this little slope, but that's not too much of a big deal, because I do want people to be able to run straight through here. We're going to need to do something here as well, just to add little vignettes. So all these little vignettes are they're points of interest. So you can run around on the sand if you want, or you can run in and through here to grab resources. And each one has a little story, or just a little pathway, or something for the player, which is nice. It's good. So I'm going to leave that for the time being. If you like these videos, definitely leave a little like. Leave a subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. If you want notifications, dingle the bingle. If you don't want notifications, don't click the bell. And I'll tell you what, I'll catch you next time.